Okay, you guys, so this is 5.3. We're going to be multiplying decimals. That is your standard, and your objective is to be able to multiply decimals with at least 80% accuracy given independent practice. So I'm going to quickly do the modeling decimal multiplication, and then I'll actually get into the direct way to solve. So in this case, we have a 10 by 10, which is 100. So every single one of those squares basically represents 1/100th of the whole. Okay. In this case, we have 3/10 times 5/10. Now, so in this one, to represent it, modeling decimal multiplication, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 of those little tiny boxes, and I'm going to have times 5 of this, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when I do that, I get 15 hundredths, which is basically 1500ths. Okay, I personally do not recommend for you to do it this way. The book shows you a little bit more on that, but let me get over here with multiplying decimals. So the first thing I'm gonna do is either or. So if you set it up like this or set it up like this, it's not gonna make a difference. So the beauty with multiplication is that you can change the order, and you're gonna get the same answer. So in this case, I just take the 5 times it by 3, that's 15. So carry one, write my 5 and carry the 1 over, and then I go 5 times 0 is 0 plus 1, that's just 1. Some of you are going to freak out and want to do this 0. You don't need to, but you can if you want to. So you can do that if you want. Remember, this is a place that you leave alone. I recommend that you don't write it 0, because sometimes if you have a number here, like for instance 2 times 5, that's 10, you might get confused with that. So you don't need to have that, so I'm gonna just erase it. And so if you do have it, you add, right? And then you locate your decimal points, and then you look to the right of them. Okay, so this is one digit that you have there, and then over here to the right of it, of the decimal, you also have 1 digit. So you're gonna basically add them together. So you have 1, 2, so you have 1, 2, and so you start your answer on the product, you go 1, 2, and decimal goes right there. Okay. If I do it the way that I personally do it, so I just go like this, and I don't do the 0. I just go 1, 2, so 1, 2, and then you go to the decimal there, and you put a 0 here to just have a placeholder, so to make sure that you know that that's a decimal. Okay, let me go ahead and do this one for you, and then I'll do one for you to practice. I believe that's what I had. So again, it doesn't matter how you set it up. If you prefer. For instance, if you rather do your 2s and your 7s, I will put that in the bottom. But if you rather do your 4s and your 8s, you can do that in the bottom. So I personally prefer my 2s and my 7s. So I'm gonna change the order there. And for this one, you guys, you don't have to match the decimal point. You only match it when you add and subtract. You can if you want to, use for aesthetics, but you don't have to. So I go 7 times 4, that's 28. Write my 8, carry my 2 over. And then 7 times 8 is 56, plus 2 more, that's 58. And because I already know that there's a 0 there, I'm not going to add anything, so I can do my 5 there. And then you're going to take your 2. And remember, I'm going to skip space there. I usually don't do anything, but just for your sake, I'm going to do an X right there. 2 times 4 is 8, and then 2 times 8 is 16. Again, there's a 0 there, so I don't have to carry it over. So that's 8, that's 16, carry 1 over, that will be 6 plus 5, that's 11, plus 1 more, that's 12, carry 1 over, that's 2. And then again, you go 1, 2, 3, and you go 1, 2, 3, decimal goes right there. Okay, let me go ahead and give you one to do. Okay, go ahead and do this one for me, and then you're gonna answer on the Edpuzzle. Okay, now how to estimate and check to see if the answer is reasonable. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna estimate this is pretty close to 4, and this is pretty close to 6. So that's 24. Okay, that's basically an estimation. So let me see, actually do the math and see if I get that. So then I can do 3 7500ths times 6 and 2500ths. So I go 5 times 5 is 25, carry my 2 over. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 2, that's 37, carry my 3 over. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 3 more, that's 18. I skip my 1s because now I'm going here. And then I go 2 times 5, that's 10, carry the 1 over. See, this is an example that I was telling you. If you add a 0 there, you might just kind of look away, and you might be like, oh, I already did that. 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, I already have that. And you're going to get it wrong. So that's why I personally don't recommend that you do that. So you can do an X, or you can just skip it. I personally don't do anything. I just skip it, but you can do the X. So I go 2 times 5 is 10, carry 1 over. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 1, that's 15, carry 1 over. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 more, that's 7. And then I take my 6. 6 times 5 is 30, carry 3 over. 6 times 7 is 30, sorry. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 2 is 45, carry 4 over. And then 6 times 3 is 18, plus 4 more, that's 22. And so you add them all together. So that's 5, that's 7, that's 13, carry 1 over. So that would be 9 plus 5, that's 14, carry 1 over. That's 23. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's pretty close. 23 and 4 hundredths is pretty close to that. So then I can kind of check that I did my answer correctly. To check your division, what you do is to check your multiplication, what you do is the opposite, which is dividing. So you take your product and you divide by any of the two factors, and you should get the other one out. So let me just show you an example how you should check your multiplication without this one. So I'm gonna make an easier one so I can show you how to do that. So for instance, if you multiply that, that's 4, that's 0, that's 6, and then you have 3, so 1, 2, 3 right there, okay? So what you do is you take your product. So I'm gonna take my product and I'm gonna divide by any of the two factors. So I can divide by this, or I can divide by that. To make my life easier, I would like to divide by this. So let me do that. So I take 604,000 divided by here. Now, just bear with me. You haven't learned this, but you will. So you cannot have decimals on the outside. You cannot have decimals as divisors. So I have to make that a whole number. So basically, multiply times 10 by moving the decimal 1 to the right, and what I do to the outside, I do to the inside. So then you end up with a decimal here. So I end up with something that looks like that. Okay, and then I can just bring on my decimal there. So I go, how many times does 2 go into 6? That's 3. I don't have anything left. And then how many times does 2 go into 0? That's 0. How many times does 2 go into 4? That's 2. Did I get my other number? Yep, I did. So it's correct. Okay. God bless you. That's all you have for today. Bye-bye.